Tony Poulos here at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. I've managed to catch up with Paul Jeseman from Tekelec. Paul, big explosion of data worldwide. We've seen it happening in Europe and the US. It's now happening in Asia. What's the story there?
There is absolutely a phenomenal growth in data, but also a newer phenomenon in signaling traffic, in particular in modern LTE networks. Asia Pacific as a region has the characteristic of most sophisticated LTE networks, Japan, Korea, combined with networks in which the data growth is just starting. For example, Indonesia, which poses a number of challenges to operators.
Those challenges are what? What is the big issue there? Is it lack of spectrum? Are the networks out of date? Where are the big issues for them? You said at the signaling layer, what does that mean?
What it means that in countries in which there is a phenomenal uptake of data services, as I mentioned, sophistication in services in Korea, with moves to VoLTE, voice over LTE, as it is in Japan, where spectrum, of course, and capacity is one of the biggest challenges. However, the nature of the services and application causing signaling storms is the biggest challenge for operators to manage at the moment.
How can they get over these problems? And what does Tekelec do to help them out?
One of the most important approaches is a four-step migration, both from technology perspective and service perspective, to what we call ThinkingNetworks. It starts with implementation of a central, robust control layer for diameter traffic. That's the communication in modern LTE networks,
yes,
not only in a core network for mobility management registration, but also for sophisticated data services, allowing over-the-top and on-network services.
How does that help them out? And how does it attract outside players? Does it allow connectivity to external services? What's the big advantage?
The biggest advantage for operators in the first instance is the ability to scale commercially and technically and manage not only data growth, but the more important associated signaling traffic. And using the control point of a signaling traffic to provide point of access to the network capabilities that allow them to manage and monetize mobile data.
So ThinkingNetworks is the way of the future? Is it the terminology we'll be hearing more about?
We would certainly hope so. It's definitely an approach and a blueprint for operators to move from a pure access provider with all the challenges I mentioned, catching up with capacity, towards a digital lifestyle provider who can predict and address the needs of users, subscribers in modern networks.
It sounds to me like a very smart pipe. Would that be fair to say?
It is probably not capturing everything you want to say. If you allow me to elaborate briefly on all those steps that we see, overlapping steps and phases in this evolution and development of mobile operators' business, facing the business model disruption that we just briefly discussed, over-the-top services, disassociation between revenue and the actual traffic volumes, facing probably every country, every region, every operator,
yes,
and the need to monetize the network better. If you take the step towards what I mentioned, the new diameter network, the implementation of a control layer, as a second step, or as a parallel step, the ability to virtualize it, what we called Cloud XG, the next generation cloud services where that control layer becomes virtualized. That allows you to not only implement the right scalability, elasticity in the network with the cost control required, but also point of access for leveraging and exposing those network capabilities.
And I'm presuming that Tekelec can help operators in all those areas.
You are absolutely right, both the new diameter network as well as the virtualization thereof. But there is a more important step, and this is the step, both aspects that I mentioned are pure technology aspects at the beginning. However, the move into what we call mobile social, the ability to leverage, tap a vast amount of data generated by users themselves. We call them subscribers, they are consumers of the services. And within regulatory framework and improvement and privacy laws, to leverage the data to understand what drives consumers in the different persona as personal users, as business users in the social communities, to offer highly targeted, highly personalized, and therefore highly relevant and valuable services to them.
Well, that's what every operator is trying to do with that customer experience management ideas that we're coming up with. Paul, great to have that explained to me. Thank you for spending time with me today.
Most welcome.